The Guardians sent the first place AL East team packing this week, and they'll welcome in the second place team to Cleveland this weekend. What will we learn about the Guardians this weekend in their showdown against the Red Sox in Cleveland? We'll get into it on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Guardians. Hope you enjoyed the off day. It was a beautiful day in Cleveland. Nice day to have off for the baseball team. Could have been a great day for baseball, but they're back on Friday. We're here with you on a Friday. It is Locked On Guardians. Thank you for making us your first listen today and every day, whatever it is that you get podcasts. We are doing this every day. And a special treat for all those listeners today, we are doing the thing we do best here at Locked On Guardians 5 days a week. We are talking about the Guardians series.
Interrupt each other? Oh.
There is that. We do that very well. We're talking about the Guardians and the Red Sox series. We're also going to dive into the Guardians farm system today, and we're going to dive into the draft. We cover the Guardians from the major leagues to the draft, all the way down the draft, and we do it 5 days a week here on Locked On Guardians. I'm Justin Latta. I grew up in Cleveland, and I have been watching the Guardians since I can remember, and I have been covering their minor league system since 2007. You could find my analysis at The Morning Journal, The News Herald, Next Year in Cleveland.substack.com, Prospects Live, and here with my co-host and friend, Jeff Ellis.
And I am said Jeff Ellis before coming on to Locked On. For some reason, they decided to make me one of their initial hires. I still don't understand that, but hey, I'm thankful. I was a longtime MLB draft. Sorry, it's NFL draft night, but I was an MLB draft. I did some NFL draft work back in the day, if I'm honest. Someone could probably dig that stuff out if they really wanted to dive. I wouldn't recommend it. But MLB draft and prospect analyst nationally for Scout and 24/7, as well as locally at just about every Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist.
Yes, the ones that don't even exist yet. Maybe not. Who knows? We'll see if you have time for that. Jeff, I feel like the Guardians, we haven't seen them get a whole lot of luck. We've been talking a lot about luck early on in the season, BABIP, all that kind of stuff. The other thing we have mentioned early on is that they have run into every team's ace. There was Cole Reagans, because you're opening the season.
Twice.
That's obvious. Yeah, twice Cole Reagans. The Padres have a great pitching staff. You saw King. They just saw Dylan Cease. Or not Dylan Cease. They just saw Paul Skeens. Mm-hmm. They are finally, I think, catching a break this series. Garrett Crochet threw on Wednesday. They will not get Garrett Crochet against the Red Sox this weekend.
We missed Fried last week, who I think is currently the leader for the Cy Young, the leading candidate betting odds wise. So it's finally turning.
So two series in a row, they are not getting the other team's best starter. So we were going to talk today about what we can find out about the Guardians from their weekend showdown with the Red Sox before we get into some minor league stuff and some draft tidbits as well. The first thing we will learn, though, is they're not going to face Garrett Crochet. They didn't face Max Fried. That's a good thing. I think the first thing this weekend to look for, Jeff, is it's going to be the pitching staff for me. We're going to figure out the bullpen, right? The bullpen's been rested. They didn't use the heavy hitters on Wednesday. They were off Thursday, so Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron, all those guys get a reset. They should be available. That's a good thing. We'll see if they play Friday with the weather. The forecast today is not great. But I think the big thing to look for in this series, Jeff, is the pitching matchups for the Guardians versus the Red Sox offense. Friday, you have Ben Lively going, who is going to give you a gritty and gutty performance every time, and he's going to do his best to keep you in games. You have Logan Allen, who has been effective this year. He's not missing a lot of bats, but he has been effective. There's been some pitch mix changes. We've got the two seam, the changeup's coming back. He's throwing the ball. He's throwing the cutter and the sweeper into righties, which is good. And then Sunday, you get Gavin Williams. This is another good lineup the Guardians are going to face, right? Alex Bregman's off to a good start. Weiler Breyer, you and I both really like. He's good. Christian Campbell has maybe the rookie of the year right now in the American League.
I think so.
Trevor Story's been good. Jarren Duran's not having a great start, but he was an all-star a year ago. This is a good Red Sox lineup. So Ben Lively, it'll be tough for him to navigate. I think it'll be a great start to learn about Logan Allen because, again, we've talked about how he has provided a lot of solid starts for them so far this year. He's kept them in games. He's done some nice things, much better than a year ago. This will be a good test for him, I think. And then Gavin Williams, he got to face the Yankees and he went out and dominated their lineup, even though he didn't really strike a lot of guys out. He was fantastic in that game and gave them what they needed. This will be a great chance for him to follow that up and see what he does off of that start. If he can roll that success against the Yankees, against the Red Sox this weekend, and hopefully they can get another series win, but that'll be on a Sunday showdown with Brian Bayo. And this Red Sox pitching staff, Jeff, the starters have not been that great, if we're being honest. Last year, obviously, Walker Buehler was a big starter for the Dodgers in the World Series, but he's been just okay this year. Tanner Houck has been horrendous. This is the guy who's kicked the Guardians' butt in years past. And Brian Bayo has been, a little bit lucky, let's say. He's got a 100% strand rate. This is only his second start of the year. So as far as the offense is concerned, I think this will be a decent weekend for them, at least opportunity-wise. But for me, it's the pitching staff. It's the rested bullpen. Hopefully things are okay with Class A. And really, it's about, Logan Allen proving what he's done so far this year and Gavin Williams trying to string things together 2 starts in a row.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at this offense because, Bregman's been, as you talked about, huge addition, and Campbell and Weiler's been great and Story. But after that, it's a lot of guys who are kind of disappointing as well with Devers and Duran. So I think it is going to be interesting to see how they do against the top of the lineup, just because I feel like they're a little bit top heavy right now. They're kind of like Cleveland, where it's, it's 4 to 5 guys. And they're also like Cleveland, where some of those guys are closer to the top. Like, obviously, his team isn't going to drop Rafael Devers, even though he's, at a 95. He's slightly below average. So it's a much higher ceiling and higher production. But it is funny how we see these teams where pretty much everyone is having multiple bats, kind of slow start. So I'm kind of curious to see. Now, unfortunately for Cleveland, we had a similar conversation before they went to Los Angeles, and then Logan O'Hoppe turned into the home run champ starting in that series. So maybe this is we'll kick off Tristan Casas and Duran and Devers, but at the same time, just so fans know, those are guys who are struggling. Those are guys to maybe circle and pay attention to in terms of players that you're kind of hoping stay quiet. The other side of it, I will say though, is when you go through their list right now, this is a BABIP king team. This is a team that is, I bet you if we looked at the data, has one of the best BABIPs in baseball. There's just so many guys, and some of those bench guys in particular, but even some other ones with just, Trevor Story's got one over 400. So there's a lot of players who could also be coming back to earth.
The Red Sox are 8th in team BABIP at 305. Actually, they are 8th overall. Yeah, the Marlins are number 1 at 329. Not a great sign for them. That means they're overperforming an already bad team. The Guardians are 23rd in BABIP, just so we.
That's an improvement.
That's an improvement, yeah.
From where it was. I know people get mad. Oh, I was just going to say, I know people get mad about. You go.
The one thing you don't want in this series is the same thing we talked about when they were facing the Orioles in Baltimore, is they were struggling. And at the end of that series, the Orioles got hot, right? Gunnar Henderson, some of those guys who weren't really hitting early in the year, they got hot and they started hitting. Rafael Devers is really good. He's struggling so far to start the year. I think Trevor Story is getting a little bit lucky so far, so maybe that won't be as sustainable for him. I also think Tristan Casas is a good hitter. So you want to make sure these guys are not getting hot in Cleveland. You want to get them out of here before they start to find it, because they will find it. They are good hitters. But you're right. Facing the top of this order is going to be really important. The Guardians this year, I feel like have had, it's Ortiz, it's Gavin, it's Tanner. I feel like they've had a lot of issues in the first inning this year where they're getting off to slow starts. They're giving up runs in the first inning, and they have to get past the top of the order to keep this in check, because, the bullpen's rested, but you don't want to have to lean on them too heavily 3 games in a row, because you are at the start of a 13 games and 13-day stretch here. So this is a series the Guardians, I think, want to get off on the right foot for, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure when you're going into a stretch of a lot of games in a very few days. And we know the depth in the bullpen is thin right now with injuries and the Class A situation. So I think it's imperative the starters have a good first inning and don't have the high pitch count and the issues in the first inning they've been having.
Yeah. We talk about BABIP, and as what I was going to say earlier with, I know people don't like it when we talk about luck, but the reason we bring it up is you're looking for execution, and there are certain
stability.
Players. Yeah, you're looking for stability, but there's certain players where, again, you and I talk about Nolan Jones, and we think he'll be better because the data points to execution, and that's where it matters. That it's been bad luck. For someone like Trevor Story, you can look at it as, other things and stuff like that. But, luck isn't necessarily a net negative trait. It's one of those things we bring up, but I also understand that to some degree, you make your own luck. And that's why we count on certain guys to bounce back and rebound, and why we have more faith in certain players than others.
Yep. Track record. You can always look at track record. The Guardians are in second place. The Red Sox are in second place. This is a good lineup for the Red Sox again. The pitching staff is just so. I think this will be a good test for these starters, especially Logan Allen and Gavin Williams, to see the improvements they made. I mean, Ben Lively is your steady Eddie. Hopefully he's good, but this will be a good weekend to see what Logan Allen and Gavin Williams are working with this year and see if they can string some success together. The Guardians had some success over the offseason in trade. I think I can go as far to say the Guardians have already won one of their offseason trades. Which trade is that? We're going to dive into the minors on Locked On Guardians next before we get into the draft at the end of today's show. So stick around to see who the Guardians have already picked off on the trade market. Hey, did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, which I played a heck of a lot of this year, to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. They make it easy to play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with you, allowing you to take yours or your kids' games wherever you plug in. I know when I'm going to have any trips coming up this year, summer trips, and even next year I'm looking ahead, and I want to play MLB The Show or any of those other titles that we talked about on the road. I don't have to lug my Xbox with me on the road. I'll be able to take it with me, and I'll be able to play those games on my Fire TV Stick 4K. I'm looking forward to that, to being able to take my video games with me on the road when I travel. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. You're on mute.
Okay. First, today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you built and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain easier. Managing logistics easier. Responding to price changes easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward. Think ahead and lead the way, because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hard-working minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier takes the lead. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
The Guardians this offseason made a numerous amount of trades. It was a very busy offseason, I would say. The one trade I think the Guardians have already won is the Eli Morgan swap to the Chicago Cubs. Eli Morgan is currently on the injured list by, no fault of his own. An elbow impingement, so that's not great. He wasn't pitching all that great before he got hurt. That alone itself, I think, was a good move for the Guardians, moving a guy who, might be due for some aggression, those sorts of things. But people are really excited about Alfonsin Rosario. Jeff, this is a guy who we talked about in the offseason, getting someone like this to diversify their minor league system. This is a guy who has skills and tools that they don't have a ton of down there. And we always talk about how the Guardians minor league system needs guys with more higher grade tools. They need to find guys that are attractive in trades to other teams. He was attractive to them in a trade, but they need to find guys who have tools that stand out and are attractive in trades. Otherwise, but also have standout tools in their own system that they don't currently have. So I think that was a good target for him in the first place. I will say my first look at him on video over the offseason when he was in low A with Myrtle Beach, I saw a very rigid bat path, like a guy whose barrel was in the zone a lot, who didn't chase, which was good, but his barrel didn't move around the zone a ton. It was not covering a lot of pitches in the zone. So he had a lot of swing and miss in the zone. And he's an aggressive player who strikes out. That's going to come with the territory. And the Guardians have not really done well with this type, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't take more chances, because all it takes is one guy to pop and make these kinds of approaches work, makes you a unicorn. Alfonsin Rosario this year, though, has cut down on his strikeout rate quite a bit. I will say the swinging strike rate is still pretty high. In comparison, normally I will say the swinging strike rate, when you look at that, his is 18.6. Normally you can assume that the strikeout rate should be about double. It's not an exact figure, but it's close. So his swinging strike rate is almost 20%. So you would expect his strikeout rate to be, 38%, somewhere around there. It's only 19%. But a lot of that is happening right now because he is taking more swings earlier in at bats. He's becoming more aggressive. He's making better swing decisions overall. And the thing that's most exciting about Rosario to me, Jeff, is the batted ball profile. He hits the ball hard, but it's a high fly ball rate. It's a pretty high pull rate. He's not hitting the ball the opposite field a lot. He is driving the ball to center and left field. And this is a kid who is only 20, won't turn 21 until June. He runs fairly well. He's got a good arm. It's really about the contact, and he's still pretty young, and I think this is an exciting profile. So Eli Morgan hurt, not pitching well for the Cubs, not hurting the Guardians bullpen. That's a win. Rosario, to me, looks like someone to keep an eye on going forward. That's a win.
Yeah, and like when you look further into the overall data and what's changed for him this year, the interesting thing, it's actually the lowest pull rate so far at any stop of his career, but it's still very high. It's over 41%. But the more interesting thing is, you talked about how he had kind of a flat rate. His ground ball rate is down significantly, and his fly ball rate is up. So I think Cleveland might have seen some things there. If you look at that Cubs team, it's not a self-built team. A lot of their prospects have not really hit, or they've been traded away to get up there. So maybe Cleveland thought they could see something here that they could fix, turn around. I mean, so much of baseball anymore is not about performance as much as it is what you think you can fix. Like, we've talked about for years that Guardians were going after University of Florida because they knew there were fixes that could be made, because that was a program that insisted you have to use your fastball almost like a certain amount of the time. Sorry, Smokey Gator. I'm sure you're not appreciating that one of our everydayers. But, it's like we've seen their own pitchers talk badly about them upon leaving. So with Rosario, it's interesting that it appears on paper that they have done some work. I mean, his fly ball rate went from 40% last year to 53%. His line drive rate is the same, but his ground ball rate went down to 12%. So that's what he's doing. So he's putting the ball in the air more, which again, combined with Justin mentioned with his, his exit velocity, with his bat speed, with all those things that made him an interesting prospect, is going to lead to strong outcomes. For the most part. I mean, you want to see line drive higher than anything else. That's what's going to lead to your best outcomes. But he's putting some things together, and it's an exciting performance for a guy who's also younger than the level, making improvements, moving up a step. Like, I know people want to talk about Tommy Hawk, and we don't have a ton of time to talk about him, but it's interesting when a guy like him steps up to a level when a guy like Hawk stays behind. That's why we talk about Rosario, and we're not spending as much time on someone who's repeating a level, because that speaks for itself.
Yeah, it kind of does. And the fact they decided Rosario is ready for high A and Hawk stayed in low A, and they were both in low A a year ago. Absolutely. The other side of the outfield, Jeff, on Thursday, CJ Kayfus played right field for what I believe is the first time in his minor league career. He has been in left field before, but this is the first time he played right field. And I did watch the game. He didn't really have any chances that were extraordinary. He caught some routine fly balls out there. He refielded some routine ground balls. He did make a strong throw to third base from right field. And that was the thing I was actually looking for, because I don't know if Kayfus really is going to have great range, but I think we've mentioned this before. If John Kenzie Noel can play right field, I think CJ Kayfus can play the outfield. But him in right field to me is very interesting, because we know right now, and I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but we know right field has been unsettled for the Guardians since Manny Ramirez left, or Sin-Soo Choo was traded. Like, I can't remember the last time this team had a right fielder that you were like, oh yeah, I mean, Jay Bruce, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Lonnie Chisnall, Brandon Guyer were a fantastic tandem. That's wrong. But it's been that long since right field has really been solidified, right? Putting him in right field to me is very interesting because obviously it's unsettled right now. Chase DeLauder's not back yet. And I kept saying, well, I think Kayfus will be traded. I think he'll be traded because, they have Manzardo who's playing well. You have Ralphie. You have David Fry and all those kind of things. I thought Kayfus could be trade bait. I thought, okay, well, left field maybe when Quan is gone because, there's been no talk of extension, whatever. I don't know. Right field is interesting for me. I know it's just to keep things diversified and get him more reps and versatility, but I'm very interested in this one because he's obviously off to a great offensive start. I don't think it'll happen this year, but if he can play right field, that just gives you another option out there to settle things in a position that just they haven't been able to figure out for, a couple years now.
Yeah, I was flashing the floor because he played 4 games at University of Miami in right field, and that's his
I meant as a pro. Sorry,
I know, but I'm just saying that's his total. He didn't even play it in the summer leagues. He has 4 total games before today, so this is his 5th game total in right field in his career, at least college and pro career. So I mean, yeah, I agree with you, but I just thought it was interesting to bring up the point that that's how little he's played it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out and how much more that happens because he has had several games in left field this year already. He's already played. Actually, he's only played 1 in left field. So this is his 2nd outfield start of the season, and this is his 1st in right field. So that's interesting. We'll see how that pans out for him. All right, there are a couple of other minor leaguers we want to mention after this. We want to talk about Juan Brito. We want to talk about a couple pitchers. We'll get into that. And then Jeff also has some interesting draft tidbits. We'll talk about where the Guardians draft strategy might go in 2025 coming up on today's Locked On Guardians. This is the Locked On Guardians show for the diehards. You're here because you watch every game. You want to know why it happens, not just what happens. And we want to take you behind all of those scenes, why it happens, including the minor leagues and the draft. Please make sure if you've gotten this far and you like what you're hearing, you are downloading on audio wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Pocket Casts, Overcast. Undercast, Sidecast, wherever you get those casts. Auto download there. Make sure you hit the bell on YouTube for reaction videos for every episode. Bonus episodes, the MLB Squad Show in your feed as well. You don't want to miss those. Those are a lot of fun. Everyone kind of riffing and going off the cuff. And then make sure you're joining to be an insider. We're chatting with our insiders all the time. So they're asking us questions. They're giving us suggestions for show topics. We're talking about things during the game. We're giving them bonus content as well. So join subtext.com/LockedOnGuardians is how you get in on the action. I should be in Lake County on today, providing the weather holds up. So I will have some updates from Lake County for our insiders. Jeff, one of the guys in the minors that we have to talk about, though, is Juan Brito. He's still out with a jammed wrist. It's been a week now since he has had this wrist issue. It's not looking great if he's been out a week at this point, and couldn't be worse timing because, honestly, Gabriel Arias is playing pretty well. It's not like anything's going to happen. Will Wilson was coming up whether or not Brito was healthy because this was a bench role and not a starter's role. But, man, it's hard to put pressure on Brito when you're not playing. And Brito is playing. It's hard to put pressure on Arias when you're not playing. And this is really bad timing for him because at some point this year he was going to get a shot, and now he's sidelined for a week.
Yeah, he is just kind of – it's a bad time for it to have it happen, but at the same time, like maybe it's not because with the way Gabby has played, it's not like he'd have the opportunity. So I guess maybe it's better to have it early than late. So it's just unfortunate. Any injury is unfortunate.
It is. 2 pitchers in the minors. Want to highlight 2 guys that are new to the organization too very quickly before we get into draft talk. Is first Josh Hartle. Now, we talked about Hartle in the offseason coming over from the Pirates. He was at Wake Forest. This is a guy Cleveland clearly liked in the draft last year and ended up not getting him. I think he got sniped to pick before. Close to was what it was. Pick 83, pick 84. Right? Yeah, one first pick. So a guy they definitely had their eyes on, and he was a guy whose velocity fell, his stock fell, and he was having some command issues, which were not good for a guy with his stuff. It's only 3 starts, but there's been some really positive developments for Josh Hartle. He's missing some bats. He has struck out 11 in his last 2 games, only walked 2, spanning 8 innings. So I like what I've seen out of Hartle so far. The fastball velocity has to come up still for me, but the control seems to be trending back in a good direction. So that's a good step 1. And then Braylon Doughty. We talked about Braylon Doughty before a little bit. Continues to impress as a high school kid. The walk rate is in a really great spot at that level, 7%. He did walk 2 in his last start, but he struck out 6. Again, this kid is only 19. He won't be 20 until the season's over. And he is throwing 4 innings at the minor leagues and at high A in low A in his first year. He's missing bats at that level. I know we talk about how that level is not the best anymore for things, but when you're 19 and you have that kind of stuff to compete a year out of high school, that's really impressive. I can't say how much more I'm impressed with Braylon Doughty than I already have been. This is a guy whose stock is going to continue to soar as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, this guy's always been the limit. He's just had so many reasons why you should believe, and now you can add performing at a level he probably shouldn't be performing as well as he is at his age. So
absolutely. All right, Jeff, you've had some conversations with some people about the Guardians draft interest. We know the bonus pool came out on Wednesday night as well. The Guardians draft strategy looked so far this year, Jeff. What do you think? Are we looking more like high school? Because this is when the Guardians pick this low in the draft. I will say I tend to lean more towards high school because you lose the safety of the college class in the upper tier.
There's going to be some college guys because like the college group is it's deep, but it is certainly not top heavy. This is a bottom heavy draft. Is that a thing? Can you be bottom heavy?
Queen thinks so.
Yeah, it makes the world go round. But when you're looking over, like this is the worst top 10 I can recall. Like this is before this, we kind of looked and talked about the year Cleveland picked high and took Clinton Frazier, where like people like Chris Bryant and like Cole Stewart and that whole group and Mark Appel was kind of, but like this is worse than that. Like, I mean, there are guys, Braden Montgomery, even James Tibbs a year ago, I would have been tempted to put number 1 in this class. Like, I do like Jamie Arnold, but like at least number 2, yeah, I would probably put either of those guys number 2. It's not a good group. Now, having said that, once you get past about pick 18, opens up for days, and that's why I think Cleveland went out of their way to get that comp B pick, and it gives them a lot of ability to navigate this draft. It gives them a lot of flexibility, and I think they're going to try to buy someone down, honestly, to the second round because they have 2 comp B picks, so they're going to pick 4 times on day 1, and it gives them just a lot more room to maneuver with. And I put together my mock. I have not released it yet, but I'll say this: when I got to that pick, I gave him Cam Canarilla from Clemson, who you're going to look at the data, and Cam has not done the Cape, so that might be a surprise to people. And his offensive production has gone down 2 years in a row. Now he tore his labrum last year and played through it, and then he had labrum surgery in July. And as people might recall from Michael Brantley, like labrum surgery is not you're immediately good. It takes a while, and Cleveland has gotten away from labrum surgeries, but like, isn't that what Ty Freeman had? It's what Tyler Krieger had. Maybe it's a Tyler thing. God, who was the other guy with Krieger, the shortstop from Clemson, who also had the labrum issue that I'm blanking on right now? It's like the same draft class. I can't remember.
I don't remember that. I tie him and Mark Mathias together all the time.
Oh no, maybe it was Mathias. Maybe did Krieger go to Clemson? Is that where I'm thinking?
Yes, Krieger went to Clemson.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm getting confused. But yeah, Mathias. We know that Cooper Ingle was a Clemson guy, and that is a good area. And so why would they maybe consider Canarilla there? No doubt center fielder, great contact skills. People hate that he doesn't hit for power, but he does everything else. And you're buying low. And this team loves an injured buy low candidate. 2 years ago, we were talking about Canarilla as one of the guys who's, at the top of 1-1, and you can even go back to listen to us talking to Cooper Ingle about that in our podcast. I think maybe that was off air, but yeah, so it is the ultimate buy low. Other names I'm hearing, Brady Ebel. If they go high school kid, we know they love California kids, son of Dino Ebel.
Third base coach.
Yeah, and he is he's, if you want power, this is the power hitter. Now I'm hearing a lot of teams like him, but I was told that Cleveland's been out in force checking out Ebel, so it would definitely keep your eyes on him. He's young for the class. He's on that loaded Corona squad. It's got Seth Hernandez and Billy Carlson and another player who I'm blanking on. They've got 4 guys who could go in the top, 100 or so picks, and Ebel will be a big pay down to get to the second round because he's probably like late first, like in the 30 range. So to pay him a little bit further, I've talked
about Guardians have about 11 million to spend, just under 11 million to spend this year.
everyone and their mother has connected them with Angel Cervantes, the California kid. It's, he's this
Love
year's
that dude.
Yeah, he fits everything they like and want. I also heard some connections with Cooper Fleming, another California high school kid who's got some pop in the area. I've heard Fleming connected heavily to other teams, but his name has come up there as well. So yeah, those guys. And so Ethan Conrad, I'm not including, even though you brought him up last time. And the one reason I am hesitant to bring Ethan Conrad into this discussion is because he just didn't get a chance to perform at the highest level. Like this year, he faced the non-conference.
Buy low.
There is a buy low. The question is, could he be someone you get down the board, and how much are they going to focus on? With those 4 picks on day 2, they could technically just get a bunch of like first grade talentish type of guys. There's a world where you walk away with Canarella, Conrad, and maybe Cervantes or Ebel, like probably only one or the other, but means that you're going to have to get some senior signs on day 2. And I will say this, a lot of teams are trying to spread it around this year because of how bad it is at the top.
Yeah. Hey, they didn't get Nick Kurtz. He's in the majors already, so circle back and get Ethan Conrad. Do it for me. I'm enjoying watching Nick Kurtz, but I'm also mourning at the same time. Yeah, it's not a great class. It's like you said, it opens up later in the class, and there might be some better college pitching this year overall, which I think is good.
Agreed.
But I don't know. I do like the high school picks lower in the draft just because you don't have the safety, you don't have the upside that you would take in a top 10 high school pitcher or a high school pick, but you also don't have the college safety anywhere in this draft, let alone the top. So I'm okay with jumping to high school in this area. There's going to be risks no matter what, but they have the money this year, and it's not a clear-cut year for all that kind of stuff. So buy down who you can. And I'm okay taking risks in this draft because of how weak it is. We'll see. We got a lot of time before then. Jeff will hear a lot more. We'll have a lot more here on Locked On Guardians, including Monday. Jeff and I will be back in your feeds on Monday morning. We'll talk about the Monday morning headlines from the Red Sox series, and we'll get you ready for the Twins coming to town next week as well.
Who just put Willie Castro on the DL, the beat up Twins. Ooh. Thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily, set it to auto because that helps us. And go Guardians, go.